Welcome to week one. And within this week, and I'm so excited because it's feeling real, it's kicking it off. We are starting a strong feminine community around self love and empowerment and really showing up for ourselves. And again, in a place, in a space that there's no right or wrong, it just is. And so being patient with yourself, being compassionate with yourself, there's no winning, there's no comparison, right? So we can't life better than somebody else. We can't evolve better than somebody else. We are only in it here right now, exactly where we are. And so meeting ourselves where we are versus where we hope to be versus where we were a year ago is going to be the best way to really create the growth and empowerment that these exercises and practices are designed to do, and in this accumulation. And it's not a quick accumulation because, again, if it was easy to just flip that switch and go, "Well, I've got myself figured out," we'd all be there. We would be there, and yet that's not how it works. So being patient with yourself, taking the time to really sit in the exercises. So, week one is all about awakening awareness. So, if I want to say like me, because I fall into these patterns too. I fall into life and just the grind and the autopilot. I feel like because of where I've come from in the last not only 2 years, but in the last 10, um, and I feel that because I've been practicing these exercises, because I've been peeling away the layers of the onion, because I've been doing the deeper shadow work, I definitely, as I'm doing these with you, I'm kind of it's in a new place, I guess I want to say, because again, there's no comparison, there's no good, there's no bad, there just is. And so as we dive into this week one, and it's all about awakening awareness and actually just slowing it down to the point where you are basically witnessing yourself from outside of your body, where you're going to just watch, well, how do I move through life? What are the words that I say? What are my actions or reactions to certain situations? What are my habits? How do I tend to show up? So exercise one is called awakening awareness, where, yeah, you're just going to spend a few days observing yourself and trying to do it as though you were a voyeur outside of your body, but really being mindful around slowing it down enough to see. And then at the end of the night, and each night you're going to do your daily reflection assessment. And then I think I don't even want to say times and days and when it's gonna, but then when the next exercise is released, which I believe is the mirror awareness exercise. So, and ladies, I know that we all are victims of ourselves sometimes, where because we are not quite where we want to be, or we've been working really hard to achieve something and we're not quite there yet, that we don't give ourselves credit for where we are. We want to just be where we want to be. And a lot of times that falls on how we speak to ourselves and how we show up and our language. So the mirror awareness exercise is, going to be a powerful one, because it's not just about looking at our beautiful selves in the mirror. It's about the language that subconsciously pops up when we step in front of a mirror. And I think there's a big truth to that, because we don't always hear it. So when we start to create awareness and we quiet the mind and we intentionally do this exercise and we observe, like, what is that, what are we saying to ourselves, what is that initial reaction or response when we witness ourselves in the mirror in our physical form. And so that's witnessing ourselves from outside of our body, but then taking it to directly in front of us. And how do we speak to ourselves then? What do we see when we see ourselves? ourselves. And so then, of course, we'll do our weekly integration and reflection where we will do a weekly assessment. So that way we just kind of can accumulate through the previous like 6, 7 days and go, okay, this is how I feel like I showed up for myself. This is what I feel like I witnessed. This is where I am right now. And then of course week 2 will be released on that appropriately consecutive day. So I know I'm trying not to use like language around like days and release dates and things. Like it just is, I want it to be organic and flowing, and just know that when we finish the first week, that the next week is going to show up just like we're going to show up for ourselves. And so yeah, so I'm really excited because this does kick off that foundation. And I remember, oh, gosh, well, I mean, it was years ago, and a big thing for me was around creating awareness, was, and I, don't want to like dive too deep into like how I started the evolution of self for myself. um, but I was when I was younger, I developed, like, I don't want to say developed because it was a temporary state of being that was almost self-inflicted, but I didn't know myself well enough to understand that I was the one creating the situation. But I had, started to experience debilitating panic and anxiety, panic attacks that just made me feel like I was about to die. Multiple trips to the emergency room going, what is wrong with me? And I know it's not, a Xanax deficiency. So, and it took me years. I dealt with this for 10 years, which really affected my life in a big way. But it took me to start recognizing that I was involved in things that weren't mine, that I was overly consumed with things that weren't mine. My own feelings were getting in the way of my health, that were around things that didn't involve me, that I had no control of, that I was trying to control. And so once I could step back and actually start to witness, like, wow, like I just had an emotional meltdown over something that's not mine, that I can't control, and it's affecting my immediate health. And so that was kind of the first experience for me to learn how to step back and to actually watch myself and witness myself in movement and thought and emotional state, and to be able to start to recognize the amount of control that I do have when it comes to what is mine and what is not mine, and how to feel about it, and then how it's affecting my health. So when we're awakening awareness, we want to keep in mind that it is just about seeing ourselves, how we move and how we show up. It's not about solving any problems, because it took me 10 years to implement the strategies that I learned that I had to do, but I didn't yet know how to do them. Um, and so, yeah, so it's like that was my first experience of going, I need to witness myself better, and I need to be aware of how I show up and how I move through existence, because there are repercussions, especially for me, at that time in my life. And that's, again, when I was, I think 21 was the first, experience that I had with that, and it lasted 10 years. So it was a lot of evolution in that time of learning how to witness and be aware of how I showed up, so that it didn't affect me negatively. But that's just my personal experience. So I'd love to hear yours whenever, when we share. But yeah, so I mean, week 1 is going to be amazing. It kicks it all off. I cannot wait to just see. And then 2, at the end of each week, we're going to have the show up and show out. So that's where, I mean, any part of your day, your week, throughout these weeks that you are just like, you stepped into yourself and you are feeling your most radiant, you are feeling extremely vibrant, you are loving the situation that you are in, the moment, the experience, I mean the outfit, whatever it might be. And then you are going to share that to the show up and show out, and just let it be known, like screaming it at the top of your lungs, that this is some win, you know, this is where you are and you are so in love with it at that moment. And hopefully it carries on and that inspires other women to just really connect with themselves even more, and then share to the group, be a little vulnerable and safe all at the same time. So again, I will meet you back here for the next week. I will say week 2, but yeah, so I'll meet you back here for the next week. And then don't forget, bi-weekly, we'll be having our Embodied Radiance gatherings where we're going to sit and just be together and create a sense of community and share what we need to share and take away what we need to take away. All right, have a great day.